Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to share with you. My friend today, Dawn, is with us on Interview with the Pros, and we're going to be talking about addiction. We're going to be talking about how do you support a loved one through recovery and what that looks like. Dawn is incredibly experienced, and I just want to glean from your wisdom today. So, welcome, friend. I'm so excited that you're here. Introduce yourself to us.
Thank you so much, friend. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Dawn Bralovich, and I'm the director, one of the directors, co-director, I guess, with my husband Kevin of a new addictions recovery center that we're opening up in Nova Scotia.
Incredible. Now, we met out here in British Columbia. You've kind of done the exodus across the country to launch the Helm.
Yes.
Out here, you were working for another organization. Tell us what your story is to actually establishing the Helm and what that means for you.
Sure. My husband and I are coming up on 22 years of marriage. And sadly, a week before our wedding, he picked up crystal meth and was instantly hooked. And it took us through about a 4-year journey. Just anything that could go wrong went wrong. Cheating, lying, danger, anything that you think of when you think of the worst addiction stories, you can kind of picture us going through as a newly married couple, until he ended up in Surrey pretrial out there. And he spent a month in jail and was at the end of himself. I was all the way here in Nova Scotia, actually, with my family where I felt safe. We then had a 1-year-old daughter. And he just came, he hit his rock bottom, as they say, right? And so he cried out to the Lord in his cell. He got on his knees. He was holding a little red Gideon's Bible, and he just said, Jesus, I have made a royal mess of my life, and I can't do this anymore. And I need you. I need you. I will serve you forever if you just get me out of this. I need you, Jesus. He was facing about 7 years in prison, and yeah. And Jesus came in and radically transformed him. He was actually sentenced from BC to come to Nova Scotia for a 1-year program that they then offered here at the time, an addictions recovery program. And that began his healing journey. I mean, he was instantly healed from addiction, but it was a process, let me tell you, in getting our marriage back on track and learning how to live clean and healthy after that many years of meth addiction. And we spent 10 years here in Nova Scotia, healing, being discipled by amazing pastors here in the province, until Kev really felt called to go back to BC. He really felt like the Lord was calling him to go back there to be close to his family. And he didn't really know why, but we were supposed to go, and I reluctantly followed because I was pretty happy here. But yeah, we went back, and that began our 10-year kind of journey of Jesus making sense of the mess that we walked through in addiction and as a couple and the restoration process. And he just started to use us in churches out there. And that's kind of when I met you. And I came on staff at one of the churches out there, an amazing church, and ended up working in recovery. Kind of everything that we touched was recovery related. And that's what we did for the last 10 years, and just really gleaned from amazing people of faith, awesome leaders that are working in the recovery field. And it just, we know as a couple that's why we walked through what we walked through, was to bring hope to other people that are struggling. And then the Lord impressed on us that, yeah, you've been raised up in this, and now you're going back to where you went through recovery, and starting a program there. And he's been piecing it together since we got here. It'll be 2 years. Or it's been 2 years. Yeah, I'm losing track of time. We've been really busy,
Wow.
but we're here opening what's called the Helm. And so we've got our property. We are very close to opening our doors to begin helping guys from the addictions community here in Nova Scotia.
So it's out of your story that you are planting this, that you are creating this, and obviously you how you were learning along the way. It's not like you like woke up when you're like, I'm going to go to school for this and I'm going to like do this and I'm going to like have a career and figure out, what to do in the nonprofit world and help like that. Sometimes people think that is the trajectory to go, to actually make a difference. But you took something that was happening in your personal life
Yeah.
and learned the skill set, learned, how to service not just your family, but others. I
Right.
know mine too. And so
Mhm.
there's a personal connection here.
Yeah.
How do you actually like support a loved one? This is probably one of the most common question I'm getting in most recent days. How do you support a loved one through substance abuse addiction? How do you just come alongside? Because it hurts so badly to see, obviously, a loved one going through this. But you kind of feel hopeless.
For
And so
sure.
how, if you, from your personal experience and from how you've coached other people, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, it's one that we get asked a ton. And it's the hardest one to answer truthfully. Because it looks different for every family, every loved one. I think that there are amazing programs out there and tangible things that you can do in terms of finding healthy community, because that's what we do. Like in times of crisis, we should be reaching out instead of siloing and trying to deal with it and getting buried under shame and all that stuff that we tend to do. Awesome things like freedom sessions and just churches and community groups. There's a lot of places that you can plug in. But the truth is that the number one area that I have seen fruit is prayer. I mean, can I tell you a tiny story that's like a faith builder?
Yes, tell us
Just
a story.
just
Yes,
from
yes,
today. So
please.
my
Yeah.
my husband and my son meet every Thursday morning. My son's 16. And every Thursday morning they do a little father-son devotion together. And this morning, like we've still got tons of friendships and people that we pray for from the addictions culture out west, because they're still struggling, they're still in the battle. We may have left and that's geography, like our hearts are still with them. And so there's lots of those ones close to our heart that we continue to pray for. And this morning, as they were praying for a man that we were in relationship from our ministry years out there, Tegan and my husband were praying, and as they were praying at 6:30 in the morning, so 2:30 a.m. your time, they're praying for a specific man that's struggling, and he called us. So 2:30 a.m. your time, he called them out of the blue. It's not like we talk to him every day. So God's working on hearts. God is doing things, and he answers our prayers, and it builds our faith, and it helps those that are in the trenches and struggling, right? And so prayer, like I think that we want something tangible. We want a program. We want a place to send our people. We want facts, and those are all great. But for us believers that know that our healing comes from Jesus, it is prayer. It's praying for the people that you love. And I think that another huge component of it is just like we ask people that are in addiction to recognize that they're powerless in this and that they need the Lord. Those of us that love these people are in the same boat. We can't change them. We can't make them get help. You want to desperately when it's somebody that you love that wasn't raised. Nobody grows up going, I want to be an addict when I grow up, right? Like that's not anybody's goal. So we just desperately want to fix them and help them and guide them. But we can't. And so us getting in that same boat and going, Lord, I need you. Like I can't fix them. And I need you to make that, like reconcile that in my heart and take that burden from me and help me to just trust in you for their life and their journey. And yeah, communication, there's all kinds of things, that boundaries, healthy boundaries, all kinds of good stuff. But prayer, like don't underestimate prayer. It's huge.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. And I think in this COVID season,
Mm.
it's been like highlighted so many times that addiction numbers are, growing. It's very difficult to access support or find that kind of just safe space because there's pressure. Everyone's feeling this pressure. Everyone's feeling this loneliness.
Yeah.
How have you seen this, increase, decrease? How have you seen people come around others? How is this time been, is it unique even? Or is it just being hyped up as unique? Like what has your experience been like?
Yeah, I think that COVID is really affecting this culture, because if you talk to anybody that's trying to get help, they'll tell you that community is a huge part of the healing process. Like whether they're in a treatment facility, day programs, residential, whether they're in AA or they're a part of a church group, like a discipleship program, it's the community connection that they need. And so when you take that away from somebody that's clinging to that for their healing, I mean, we're still getting statistics. I'm not up on all of them, but we know that it's drastically affecting people that struggle with addictions. There's no question. Addictions rates continue to climb. They haven't gone down in years. They just keep going up. Overdose rates are skyrocketing and higher than they've ever been. Suicide rates, you know that mental health and addictions, they're married together. They just are. And so it's affecting them in really not great ways. So I think the church is doing everything that they can to stay in touch with people. And I love that. And this is the one instance where I'm seeing social media. A lot of times we're down on it, but like it's how people are staying connected. And I'm kind of encouraged. I'm watching my friends from different communities out west, like they are staying engaged and they're cheering each other on and using that platform. So that's good. But it's tough for sure. We're all praying for an end to this so that people can get back to the community that they so richly need.
I love what you're saying, even at the church body, like from coast to coast to coast in Canada, it is coming alongside, even recognizing that mental health and addiction is something that we need to serve as a church. And that in this season, the church has been able to rise up and go, hey, we can love on. I know a lady that faithfully goes every single week to our recovery center that's out here. And she just hangs out with the gals there and is like, what, social distancing, doing her thing, but loving on people. And that's just one little example. But the church, I think, as a collective is rising up in this moment going, no, hold on. We need to actually live out what we believe in, that God sees and hears and loves us no matter what our circumstances are. So I love that. I love that you mentioned that. So as you are doing like really hard, difficult work, and what has been your encouragement during this season?
It's the church. You just said it. It's
the
local church. I love the church. I love the church. Yeah. And I'm so encouraged by new churches here in Nova Scotia. I grew up here as a little girl, and it felt sleepy. Like for a lot of years, it just felt like the church, the body was kind of sleepy. And she's woken up here, right? Wow. And it's a beautiful season. God's building an army in the Maritimes. There's no question about it. And churches, there's no, my church is better than your church. Like there used to be, let's face it, there used to be a lot of like jockeying for being the best church. And there's just none of that. They're just all helping people and using their resources. And it's just a beautiful day for the church here. I love it. We've been so welcomed. And they didn't really know us. Like we started this process, we only got the Helm Center last May 4th, we got the keys, and have been renovating this house and getting it ready to open. But these churches have just come alongside us and they don't know our history. They didn't get to see the fruit of our work in BC. They're just taking us at our word that we want to love on people and help people in the addictions community here. And so that's all they needed. And so they're all like sold out here, encouraging texts and letters and dropping by with food and how can we help? And, doesn't matter their position of authority. They're here, scrubbing floors and painting walls and just, it's just been such a faith building time for us in spite of COVID and in spite of the world and all that's going on, that people just want to help people and want to get behind faith-based helps that are out there. We didn't know what we were walking into. We just said yes and started this kind of ministry and a nonprofit from square one, and didn't know who would get involved or how we could expect local engagement. And it's been far better than we ever could have imagined, for sure.
What really will the Helm look like practically? I feel like I've had like kind of a little bit of an inside view of things, but tell my friends, how is this going to play out practically? So you have a house,
right?
And what is that going to look like? What's the program going to kind of
So we
details?
bought a 7.5 acre hobby farm very close to Peggy's Cove. So when you think of nautical and you think of Nova Scotia and the Maritimes, we knew that we wanted it to be a magnet, a beautiful place that people from far and wide would want to come visit and get involved in, if they're thinking of homeland missions and all that good stuff. We wanted it to be in Halifax regional municipality so that people could get to us easily, but also far enough outside of the city core that guys are avoiding that temptation. And so it's a hobby farm. We've got animal program, we've got a wood shop, we've got a storehouse that we're opening, we've got a commercial coffee roaster. The guys are going to learn how to roast coffee here. Yeah, we've got trails for them to hike. We're putting a gym in the basement for them. And so half their day is work program and the other half of their day is the discipleship and counseling component. So they'll get counseled while here. We have chapel every week. They have to find a mentor from the local church. And so that we'll open it up for them to visit multiple churches to gain that healthy community. Yeah, and we've got a staff that's ready to love on them and care for them. The house will host 12 men. And so we're hoping to open in a few months. And that's us in a nutshell.
Hopefully have a women's house too in the future. That would be amazing. Prayer.
That's the dream. That's the second most asked question is when are you opening the women's center? So, well, it's taken us a year to get this one off the ground. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We prayed long and hard. We actually didn't care whether it was a male or female facility. Right. We were open and just prayed. And the only reason that we chose a men's facility to be the first one is because that's the volume of calls that we've gotten. Yeah, we average 1 or 2 calls a week, and it's almost always men that want this kind of care. So when there's a need, we'll pray. And if that's God's will, then we'll open a women's campus.
Absolutely. Now you enter into people's stories. You hear a lot of heavy things. You've gone through heavy things. What have your practices been personally or with your spouse on how do you cast, that verse, you cast your anxieties on the Lord. How do you do that practically speaking?
There's a verse in the word about not thinking too highly of yourself. I mean, it's praying for humility and everybody answers to somebody. And so it's keeping people that we're accountable to in our lives and I think that's just so huge. And knowing that it's God that's in control. Like we just said yes. And we're daily, he's adding to this place and to the team. And so when you know that he's the one in control, it alleviates the stress of thinking that you're the one that and we look back and we go, oh my goodness, I can't believe how far we've come and what has been established here. I mean, we started with our first donation was 2 $10 bills that Kev got at a chapel service. That's literally the first, and we've raised close to $1 million to get us to this point in the last 2 years. And that's not us. And so recognizing who has built this and that, it will be around long after us gives us peace in the knowledge that it's his will for these people in this province. And yeah, we just do what he says, and it's worked out for us for a really long time, and we're going to keep doing that. So he's in control. Awesome. And it gives us so much peace. I know it's a simple answer, but we just spend our time with him in devotion and bathe everything in prayer and trust him. And even the bad days, I mean, we learn from and do better next time, right? So
so good. So good. What would be your encouragement? And we can end on this note. What could be your encouragement to someone who's listening and is in the midst of addiction right now?
Right.
They've stumbled on this conversation and they're listening to all of the things that you've kind of set up and accomplished and gone through. And what would your words of encouragement be right now to them?
The same words I use on myself, in that it's I'm not in control. Your life was bought at a high price. Somebody loves you. There's value in your life. If I can look at my life and Kevin's story and his addiction and know that that mess was not for nothing, that he's turned around and used it to help other people, it's important that people that are in the struggle, God doesn't waste a thing. There's not a second of your life. The pain, I mean, his word says he collects every tear, right? He sees every tear we cry. Nothing happens in vain or without his knowledge. And so I say this to people that I talk to all the time, you're in a bad season. It doesn't make it a bad life. What you're walking in right now doesn't define you. It doesn't encapsulate your whole life. It's where you're at today. And that doesn't mean it has to be where you're at tomorrow. And so sometimes pulling back and having that perspective is a lot more encouraging than everything being about right now and how bad it feels right now. I mean, we've all had sorrow and hard stuff and things that we didn't think we could climb out of, and you have to have perspective and remember that God's in control.
So good. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm.
I'm just going to add that if you are listening to this and you would love us to support you, then DM us and we will be sure to get the support that you need and connect you to
Yeah,
those resources, because that's what we're here
absolutely.
for.
Yeah, and there's so
Um,
many of them now.
there's
Like,
so
it's a
many.
new day for people struggling. The stigma is lifting, and our government and our churches and communities are really wanting to help people. It's a new day for people that are struggling. So it's encouraging times out there for sure.
Thank you so much, Dawn. This
Thank
has
you.
been incredible. You are incredible. We love you so much.
Love you.
Village Church is just championing what you are doing. I'm a big cheerleader and I am so thankful we could have this conversation, friend. How do people get in contact with you if they want to learn more?
We're on social media, thehelmcenter.hfx, or our website, thehelmcenter.ca, and it's CENTER. But yeah, you Google us and you'll find us. We're there.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. I really look forward to seeing this story unfold.
Thank you.